Hello, family. I'd like to ask you a question today during this live for Your Spouse is Not Your Adversary book review. Does sometimes does it look like the grass is greener on the other side? Does the grass look greener on the other side? You know, that's something I discuss in my book. Today I was talking to my gardener, a guy who's doing some work on my yard, and I noticed down the street, and I've been noticing someone whose grass, a neighbor whose grass is green. I mean, it's been green throughout the winter. We don't have a hard winter here, but it's been cold enough. We've had some cold days, some cold mornings. And this neighbor, particular neighbor I'm thinking of, his grass is so green. I mean, it's green. It's so green that it stands out from everybody else's because everyone else's grass right now is brown. And so I noticed though throughout the year, at least over the last 4 or 5 months, he was doing some work on his grass. Now, I was talking to a guy, again, a gardener who's working on, doing some work on my yard. He's not really a gardener. He was doing some block work, or I can't even think of the name of, of what I would call his position or his work. Is putting some cement blocks um, and some decorations around my flower bed. But anyhow, he was telling me that basically this guy used some grass lawn lawn food or something like that. And I blank right now. But anyhow, I noticed that this particular neighbor of mine was working pretty hard on his yard um, 4 or 5 months ago, maybe even less. He was preparing it. I can see he was preparing it for now. He had lawn dressing. He had lawn dressing. I even saw some sand. I don't know. I wasn't familiar with the methods he was using to dress his lawn. Uh, However, his lawn is green. His lawn is very green, and it looks really good. And I plan on buying some. I found out where to buy the lawn dressing, and so I plan on doing the same thing. Hopefully, you all can hear me. Uh, Hopefully, you all can hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up. Somebody send me a comment to make sure you can hear me because I was playing around with my mic, which is not working right now. um, and so I had to disconnect it. But however, I plan on dressing my lawn as well, in hopes that next year, or maybe even before this year is out, my lawn will look the same. Now, I don't envy his lawn. I don't desire to have his house and live in his house and take over his family so I can have a green lawn. Um, I admire his lawn because it looks so nice. It's so green, and again, it stands out from everybody else. But I don't necessarily want his lawn. What I do want is to dress up my lawn, to take care of my lawn so that it looks good as well. Now, I said all of that to say, in my book, I talk about how sometimes we look over at other families, relationships as a couple, and we may think, wow, they really have it together. Um, I wish, I don't do this, but I wish that my relationship, my marriage was like theirs. Um, that's when Sorry, that's when we will get in trouble when we do that. When we look at other relationships and we compare them to our own. Now, on another side of that, you may be married and you may be tempted to think, well, wow, when I was single, oh, I had it so good. That's another way of looking at the grass being greener on the other side. Sometimes those thoughts may cross your mind for whatever reason. Most of the time is when you are going through tough times or hard times, those thoughts will cross your mind. Uh, but quickly, if you think back when you were single and how your life was structured and or not structured, you'll probably quickly come back to yourself and realize, I don't want to be single. I don't want to, or at least go back to the life I was living as a single person because I have it so much better in my married life. You know, one other point too I was thinking about earlier is that sometimes it seems like there are more restrictions on our life as a married person. There's more requirements, and not necessarily true, but again, these are just thoughts that we know cross our minds, and these are thoughts that I know for myself, if they cross my mind, I quickly get rid of. At least now in the season of my life that I'm in now. Maybe when I was younger, that might not have been the case. Um, but now with time and experience and wisdom, I know now that if I want my grass to be greener, put in some work and it will become greener. We tend to look backwards when we are going through life's challenges. Sometimes. That's what Israel did. I'm thinking about Israel in the Bible. They were going through tough times in the wilderness and they continued to look backward towards Egypt. And we know Egypt represents the world. And although they were going to their own promised land, a land promised by God that will provide their every need and probably even some of their desires, they continued to look back every time there was some kind of challenge that they faced, whether it was food, water, or an enemy. They had a tendency to look back at the world. I remember when I first was married, I was used to, well, um, I had got accustomed, I should say, for a very short period of my life of making money a certain kind of way. That didn't fit my personality. It didn't fit my upbringing, any of that. It was just something as a young man you were experimenting around with. Unfortunately, from the community I came out of um, in Illinois. Shout out to Illinois, the state. Um, I won't name any particular cities, but or towns. But I thought that was something that I wanted to do. When I got married, and I accepted Christ as my Savior, I put aside all of the childish ways. But there were times when the finances got tough, got rough, got tight. The money got tight. I had more lint in my pocket than money, even than change. Um, I would look back and be like, wow, I can do this, I can do that, and I can get this, make this amount of money, this so fast, and I can pay this bill and take care of this. And, thankfully, I quickly got rid of that thought and that type of thinking as time went on because I realized if I just worked at providing for my family, I worked on myself to make myself more valuable to the marketplace, um, with education, whether that's formal education, reading on my own, researching things on my own, talking to people uh, who are doing things that I wanted to do, um, then I could provide for my family without having to do something that was stupid and that potentially could separate me from my family. Again, we're talking about the grass looking greener on the other side of the fence. Sometimes there's snakes in the grass, and you you don't realize that the snake is there. Um, Let me know, people, if I can be heard. I'm a little concerned because I was playing around with a mic. So um, please let me know if you can hear me. I would really like to know. Um, Also, talking about the grass is greener on the other side, I was looking at some research regarding how to improve your relationship with your spouse. And, one of those suggestions, which I agree with, and I don't agree with everything that the so called researchers or experts on marriage. Some people consider themselves experts on marriage, but they're not married, which is, I don't quite understand. But nevertheless, they're experts, right? But this particular research I found talked about just having regular discussions with your spouse. Uh, to we always hear about talking with your spouse about your day, um, that kind of thing. But it's important that we uh, maintain a regular conversation with our spouses outside of just about conversations about the children, about bills, responsibilities. Sometimes we need to sit down with our spouses and our husband or our wife and talk about our dreams, our aspirations, things that we want to accomplish in life together. Um, Sometimes it will add, not sometimes, that will add spark to your relationship when you're willing to talk about your dreams, your aspirations, and do it and go after, have a target, go after it, and have something to shoot for as a family. But these regular conversations are considered check ins. So, setting aside regular time for open discussions about feelings, expectations, and issues can prevent misunderstandings. I encourage regular conversations about your dreams, about your aspirations, about what it is that you want to accomplish, as a couple. I believe that's very important. Very important. So, again, we're talking about the greener grass. As I was talking to my the guy who was working on my yard. Um, we were talking about the neighbor with the green grass. He was telling me the neighbor used some lawn dressing that has manure in it. So he was saying, if when you buy it and you lay it down, it may stink. And I know that will drive my wife nuts. She has a nose, a sense of smell like a canine. She can smell from here to a mile away. And I know that will drive her nuts, but it would improve our lawn. And, sometimes when we're working to improve our relationships, some things can be annoying. But if we keep in mind the long term value of the work we're putting in, we'll be more willing to go through it. Paul says, keeping his eye on the mark for the prize. If we keep our eye on the mark for the prize, which is a good marriage, a good relationship, a marriage for a lifetime, then the work that is needed to put into that marriage, and maybe sometimes some of the annoying things that may come from the work. Sometimes this is what I believe. These are my thoughts. That when you're in a marriage, you ought to put more investment into, you ought to invest more in your marriage than you did in your wedding ceremony. People spend a lot of money on their weddings and then little money on their marriage. I said do the reverse. Spend less money on your marriage and more money on your wedding. I mean, less money on your wedding and more money into your marriage, and invest more time or energy, more focus into your marriage. That means like go to marriage seminars. If you need to go to marriage, see a marriage counselor, see a marriage counselor. I encourage one that knows Christ, that is a believer, if, if you are a believer, um, could be your pastors, could be mentors. Invest in your marriage. Buy a book on marriage. Your spouse is not your adversary. Shameless plug. Um, I was talking to an older gentleman. He's 76 years old. I didn't know he was that old at work just a couple of days ago. And he told me that him and his wife, I think they've been married over 40 years, they've gone on 22 cruises. 22 cruises. 22 cruises. Now, I thought that was a little excessive, but then I got to thinking about it today. If that's what it took, or is that if that's what it's taking to keep them in their marriage and happy and uh, something that's adding some spark and some excitement to their marriage, then so be it. Because the money that he spent on these 22 cruises may seem excessive to some, but as I said earlier, we should put more money and investment, time, energy, and money into our marriages to make sure that they last versus into that one day, that wedding ceremony that so many of us are uh, inclined to spend, to run up our credit cards for, unfortunately. I know some people still, they've married years ago and they're still paying on their credit cards to pay for the wedding. Um, so yeah, this gentleman, like I said, 76 years old, going on 22 cruises, and he's going on another one. He's going on another one this year. He's saving up for, and he encouraged me to go on one too with my wife. And I may take him up on that. I've never gone on a cruise, so I may take him up on that. But again, whatever it takes to, within reason, that's legal, ethical, and moral, to contribute to invest in your marriage to assure that it lasts, then make that investment. If we go to work and to our kids' practices, come home, eat, get the kids ready for bed, get ourselves ready for bed, and go to bed, wake up, and we do that over and over and over again, and that's it. Uh, there's going to come a time when the kids are big, are grown and gone, and you're sitting and you're looking at each other like, oh my goodness, I don't know this person, or I don't like this person, because you never took time to invest in your marriage, in your relationship. You went through the motions of life, of living, of taking care of a family, but you really never took time out to get to know each other, to invest in your relationship, to learn to enjoy each other outside of the normal family activities. So again, please, I would say invest in your marriage. I know me and my wife, we've gone to many uh, marriage retreats. Um, we're doing our own seminars, and so that helps to make an investment as well. As we're teaching, we're learning. We've gone to marriage classes at different churches, and we've enjoyed every one of them. And it doesn't matter how long we've been married, we understand that we have to continue to invest in our relationship so that it continues to grow stronger and that we continue to come together as a couple. Um, so please take that little piece of advice from me, and it might it might pan out. I think it will become something of value to your marriage. Here's the one thing I know about uh, my relationship with my wife, that as I continue to sow into her life, love, kindness, encouragement, um, and other things, taking her places, and buying her something, um, and etc. Just spending time together, listening to her, having conversations with her. Um, I am sowing seed. The pastors always talk about sowing seed, but I'm sowing seed into my marriage, and there's going to be a season of reaping as well. What you sow, you reap. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. And so I know that I am going to reap a harvest, a good harvest, from my efforts, time, and even money spent investing in my relationship with my wife. It's a biblical principle, sow and reaping. And so we're talking gardening today, right? Sowing seeds of kindness, of love, of understanding, of patience, of long suffering, as we talked about previously. These are all seeds that will produce a harvest of togetherness, of unity, of love, of greater love. Um, these are things that will produce the kind of marriage that you so desire. And yep, it will do it. In my closing, um, let go and let God, and allow the blessings to God to continue to flow in your life. God is um, He wants to ensure that your marriage lasts. He has uh, an interest in your marriage. He is working on your side to ensure that your marriage go the distance. And so use God, use His wisdom, use His love, use His peace, use His spirit to invest in your marriage to ensure that it goes the distance, that it goes a lifetime. He is there with a vested interest in your marriage to see that it works, that you make it together, that you last, that you endure the test of time. He has a vested interest because your marriage is just not between you and your husband, you and your wife. There's a third party, and that is God, because He is the creator of marriage. He holds the covenant of your marriage in His possession. And so your covenant is with, as we talked about previously, you're in a covenant with God. You've made a vow before not only your family, but and friends. You made a vow before God that this marriage will endure through sickness and health, through lack, uh, you know, whatever trials or tribulations or tests and trials or challenges you go through. You made a vow that you're going to stick it through. And so, again, God has a vested interest in seeing that your marriage lasts. Use the spiritual resources that He has provided. Use prayer. Use His word, His promises. over your life. Use the insights and the understanding He's given you, so that your marriage makes it. Um, yeah, that's what I got today. That's what I got for you. Um, and so, God bless you. See you next time. In Jesus' name. Bye bye.